Hi guys, I am here today to talk to you about something you've been asking me to talk about a lot, and that is organisation. So I'm going to be talking about how I plan out my time, my life, and give you some tips that hopefully will be useful to you. This video is very kindly sponsored by Skillshare, who I've worked with before, and I'll talk more about that in a little bit. Before I start, I thought I would quickly say who I am and what I do and why I need to organise all of these things. If you're new here, my name is Jen. Hi, I write books for a living. I also run writing workshops and do general freelance bookish work. I give talks at universities, schools and at book festivals. I judge literary prizes, and I also run this YouTube channel. First off, let's talk about planning your time. You've got to find out what sort of calendar works best for you. Many people find that online calendars work best for them, especially if you're working with other people, because you can share those calendars and update them from various different points. But because most of the work I do is on my own, apart from some work which I'll talk about later, I find that having an old school physical diary works best for me. Yes, this means that I have to be very careful not to lose things, but there's something about it being tangible, something I can put in my bag, something I can physically write on that really helps me with my thought process. And you will find that when I'm talking about making lists and stuff. I don't write extensively by hand, but I do like to make notes by hand. So this is what mine looks like. It is a large moleskin diary. I'm just flicking to a week where I don't have anything written in, so I can show you. And on one side it has the days of the week, and on this side it has blank spaces for notes. Something that I find really helpful with this is to make notes of future deadlines, so stuff that's going on the next week here, so that you don't surprise yourself, have a nasty shock where you turn over the page and realise that there was a deadline you forgot to pre-warn yourself about. So I use this diary. A tip for those of you who work at home like I do: if possible, it's not always possible, when you are scheduling meetings during your week, see if you can plan them to be all on the same day. If you have to make huge presentations for these meetings, don't plan them to be all on the same day. But if they are smaller meetings, try and organise them so that they are in the same time frame. So if you're travelling into the city, like I would do, I'd have to travel into London for most meetings, then you can condense all of that and minimise the time that you would spend travelling and away from your desk. So along with this diary, I also have this. This is what I call the master notebook. It's where I keep all of my notes about everything. It is the one notebook that I take with me everywhere, and then I have other notebooks that I can then filter information into. In this book, I have an endless to-do list, which seems a little bit disheartening that it's endless. It's not, I promise you. It's just a place where I can dump everything that I need to do. Everything, big or small, goes onto that list. It's like an info dump. It makes me feel better because it's no longer in my brain, it's written on a piece of paper. Then, at the beginning of each week, every Monday, I get this, which is something called the weekly planner. I will link it down below. You can get lots of different desk planners, but this one is the one that I have. Most desk planners do not have dates, they just list the days, so you can use each sheet where necessary and add in the dates yourself. This pad has 52 sheets, so you could use it for the entire year if you wanted to. And then you can also get this, which is the monthly times. So again, you can lay out your month, this time on a double page spread. I find it helpful, again, in that tactile kind of way, to have the weekly planner on my desk. And then if I'm using the monthly planner, I can see how my whole month is panning out, so that I can make sure there aren't huge deadlines that are right next to each other. So as I said, every Monday I get out this weekly times and I fill it in by cross-referencing my diary and my big to-do list. On my weekly planner, I don't write out my daily to-do lists because there simply isn't enough space for that, but I do write down my meetings and where I have to be for specific times. That way I can start to map out what my week looks like, when I'm going to be out of the house, when I'm going to be in the house, and then I can start blocking off those periods of time, the times when I'm not in meetings, and work out what to do with that time based on what I have to do that week. So as I said, in this book here, this notebook, this huge notebook, I have a master to-do list, so a huge to-do list, not just of stuff that I have to do that week, but in the coming months, etc. So on a Monday, once I've plotted out where I'm going to be, I start to write out daily to-do lists. I also keep those daily to-do lists for the week in this book here, and I give either one page or a double page spread for each day. Again, I find it really helpful to write out these tasks. It's also very satisfying to delete them by hand, to cross them out. And you could just keep an overall weekly to-do list rather than a daily to-do list, but I find that a bit overwhelming. It's also difficult to work out how much you've crossed off, how much is still left to do, and how much time that's going to take. So splitting it up into days, I think, is really, really important. When you start filling out your daily to-do lists at the beginning of the week, you will know that new work probably will come in the first few days that might have to be done by the end of the week. Some of this new work can wait until later, but there will inevitably be tasks, big or small, that you will also have to do within the week that you don't know about yet. That, at least in my line of work, that is the nature of what happens. So for me personally, when I'm scheduling my daily to-do lists at the beginning of the week, I always leave a bit of time towards the end that can be filled with those tasks that are likely to drop into my inbox. When I'm writing out these tasks for the bigger tasks, you don't need to do it for the smaller ones, I tend to write next to them how long I think they are going to take me to do, just so that you can be aware of that when it comes to each individual day and you start planning out what tasks you're going to do in what order. You might want to color code your lists for large tasks and smaller tasks so that you can prioritize your time throughout the day. Perhaps you're more of a morning person and you're more switched on in the morning. If there's something that requires your full attention and is maybe very intricate, then do it then. I would suggest not doing two large tasks next to each other. So say you want to do a task that's going to take you 2 hours. After you've done that, don't move on to a task that is going to take you another 2 hours. If you can, in that space between those two large tasks, do a cluster of smaller tasks because it will make you feel more productive. It'll also keep your brain more stimulated. So say I had 20 emails that I was going to answer and I would do that in a cluster. Answering all of those emails at the same time will probably mean that I will do them quicker than if I did them at various different times throughout the day because I'm in the mindset of answering emails. Something to also bear in mind when you are scheduling your daily tasks is be realistic. Be strict on yourself, but be realistic. Can you get all of these things done in one day? It's great to push yourself, but if you constantly set yourself a to-do list that is impossible, it's just really demoralizing and demotivating, and it's not going to make you feel productive. It's also not going to help future you because you're going to have to then move things you haven't accomplished into the next day, and you'll always be behind, and that is no fun for anyone, especially not you. At the end of every day, update your to-do lists. So make sure that if there is any little task that you haven't managed to get done that day, you add it to the following day's list, or if any work has come in during the day that you need to schedule for either later in the week or the following week, make sure you have written that down somewhere and made a note to yourself. And this doesn't just help with general organization, but it helps with turning off your brain at the end of the day too. If you have done that info dump, if you have put everything down somewhere, it gets it out of your brain and hopefully stops you fixating on it when you're trying to not work. When you are scheduling a big project as well and you're making time for it in your diary, make sure that you have broken it up into specific parts. So say I was giving a lecture somewhere. That isn't just me going somewhere and giving a lecture. I have to do research for that lecture. I have to write the lecture. I make sure that I have any slides or presentations done to go alongside that lecture. I have to have sorted out all of the practicalities of where I'm going and when and who I'm meeting with, as well as the actual going there and delivering the lecture. So if you do have a large project like that, make sure that you split it up appropriately. Also remember, this is something I often need to remind myself, that it isn't just time to plan or to research, it's time to mull over certain ideas. I always like to start something and then leave it for a little while and then come back to it, because I realise that even in that time, if I haven't been consciously scheduling time to think about it actively, I have actually been thinking about it at various moments, and then when I come to write it, I'm more prepared than I would be if I had launched myself straight into doing that. So make sure you've given yourself enough time. And also, do you need information from other people to start a project? So it's all very well you scheduling, say, a day to do a certain thing, and you get to that morning, do you have everything that you need? Do you have all the information from other people? Make sure that you have found out that information before the scheduled time that you have allowed yourself to complete the task in hand. Incidentally, that also goes for really small practical life things as well. So for instance, if you have a meeting early in the morning, have you charged your phone the night before? Do you know what you're wearing? Is your bag packed like at school, etc.? Do you know the best way to get there? All of those little things, planning in advance. Before I move on to the next stage of this video, as I said at the beginning, this is very kindly sponsored by Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning platform with over 17,000 classes that you can take. And there are videos on how to plan your time, organize your life, how to do bullet journaling, etc. I will leave some links down below. Skillshare has very kindly given me a link, which is at the top of the description. The first 500 people to click on that and sign up to Skillshare will get 2 months worth of Skillshare for 99 cents, which is about 72 pence in the UK. Skillshare is normally $10 a month. So yes, you can get 2 months for 99 cents, which is pretty cool. So now that we have talked about planning, I want to talk about headspace and workspace. Where do you work? I work at this desk right here. I have a laptop stand and a detachable keyboard, which helps me with my arthritis, etc. But I say it would be helpful for anyone because it helps with your posture. You sit up straight. My desk is also next to a window, so I have natural light, and I often make sure that I have cheap supermarket flowers that I can look up at. It's all about creating a cheerful work environment, but one that isn't too comfortable because you still want to make it feel like a workspace, but you also want to make it a space that you want to be. Under my desk, I have a box full of folders, and these are organized. They have contracts in them for my books or for freelance projects. I have folders for taxes, etc. And all of these are organized. They are sorted out. But what I also have is a drawer in my desk. It's this drawer here. You can't see it, but you probably heard it opening. I'm not going to show you in the drawer because the drawer is a bit of a mess, and that is the point. The drawer is a designated messy space, and I highly recommend having one of these things. So say I go to the post office and I post off orders of signed books for my website, or I get some unurgent post, or I get a contract through, or whatever. Any piece of paper that needs to be filed goes in this drawer, and then every week or so I go through the drawer and I filter everything out and I put it in its appropriate place. It just means that I'm not constantly opening that box and trying to file things. I am, again, compartmentalizing my time, doing all of those small tasks at once, and allowing this drawer to be a space where I can shove things for a very short amount of time. And I want to highlight the very short amount of time because you don't want to have a drawer that's just constantly messy that you're shoving things in. Make sure you clear it out regularly. But having this drawer means that I don't lose anything in the meantime before I file it. Above my desk, I have this storage box. This one is from Muji, and I really like it because it's see-through. I can see where everything is. You don't have to get them from Muji. You can get them from anywhere. I've seen them in various places, and I'll link some in the description box down below. I use this specifically for stationery, again, so that everything is in one place, so it saves me time. I don't have to hunt around for everything. There are note cards in here, envelopes, stamps, etc. I always like to make sure that I have lots of thank you cards, and this might not be something that's relevant for the kind of job that you do, but for me, I often do events, say in schools or at book festivals or with bookshops, and I always like to send a thank you card afterwards, and if I have them on hand and they're in that drawer, I know they're there, and it's easier for me to remember to do that. Let's also talk about stationery. I will link my stationery hauls in the description box down below. I have done a few of them. As I said, I always have what I call a master notebook, and this is the book I take with me everywhere, to meetings, etc., and I scribble all of my notes in here. But I also have individual notebooks that I filter information into. I have this book here, which is currently where I am making notes for the novel that I'm writing, and I have this book here where I'm writing out and planning the picture book that I am currently writing. Now, it might be if I'm going to a museum or a library to write, I will take one of those individual notebooks, but mostly wherever I go, as I said, to meetings, etc., I just take this one. It means I'm not lugging around everything. When I get home, I can then copy that information to the relevant notebook. I also find that when I copy out the information, I'm thinking about it in a more productive way. There are maybe more ideas that I want to write down. It just helps me engage with the information better, revisiting it in that way. So in the morning, I come to my desk, I am showered, I am dressed. I have a cup of tea, and the tea signifies to my brain that it is ready to work. And what I also do, which is maybe a little odd, is spray perfume on myself at that point. Smell is a really strong sense. It is the one I think that we most strongly associate with things. When we smell things, we go back to what it reminds us of. So When I spray perfume on myself in the morning and I'm sitting down, my brain says, okay, that smell means that we're starting work right now. It doesn't have to be perfume, you might light a candle, but something like that. Do you see what I mean? I find it helpful. On your computer, make sure that all of your files on your desktop are organized into different folders just to make your life easier. At the beginning of this video, I said that most of the work I do is on my own, which is why I don't use online calendars. However, there are some circumstances where I have to work with other people. So for instance, last year when I was on tour with Franklin's Flying Bookshop, I was touring with the illustrator of Franklin's Flying Bookshop, which is Katie. So I had an online Google Doc on Google Drive where I noted every event that we were going to and the trains that we were getting, and she could add in her information if she wanted to as well, just so that we knew when each of us was going to arrive at a certain venue. So you're at your desk, you are working your way through your to-do list that you have prioritized, you have a clean desk in front of you with all your relevant stationery and your computer, which has files beautifully organized on the desktop. Throughout the day, make sure that you're drinking lots of water. Reward yourself with healthy snacks. Sometimes not so healthy, that's okay. I like to give myself a treat too, but I tend to do those towards the end of the day because if I'm doing caffeine and sugar, I can be like this and my focus just goes. So I tend to do the sugar towards the end of the day, but reward yourself with healthy snacks and make sure that you're taking breaks as well. Walk around, especially if you are working from home, make sure that you get outside at least once a day and go for a walk and clear your head. If you are doing two large tasks with a cluster of small tasks in the middle, perhaps after the cluster of small tasks or before those ones, it's a good time to take a break, or even both, depending on how long those small tasks take to do, especially if the large tasks don't relate to each other. Get up, take a break, clear your headspace so that you can come back and be refreshed to start on the next project that you have to work on. Just like it's good to have a trigger to trick your brain into starting work for the day, it's good to have one at the end of the day too. So for me, that is updating my to-do lists. As I talked about before, at the end of the day, I like to do that so that I can get it out of my brain. But then also I might take off my makeup if I've been wearing makeup, or I might put on a cozy jumper or something, just something to signify that I am walking away from work right now. A lot of what I've talked about today with regard to organisation can be applied to many different circumstances. Obviously, I use these organisational skills to do with my day job, which is being a writer and being freelance. And in about a month, I'm going to make a video talking about being freelance and offering up tips and tricks. So if you have anything you would like to know about the life of a freelancer, please leave your questions in the comments section down below and I will then answer them in that video. Also, if you have any questions to do with organisation that I haven't answered in this video, or if you have any organisational tips of your own, please share those in the comment section down below because I would absolutely love to hear them. Organisation is kind of my jam and I like it a lot. I hope that this video was helpful and thanks again to Skillshare for sponsoring it. I hope you're having a great week and I will speak to you very soon. Lots of bookish love. Bye.